I got the notification.
All right. Guess we're live. So, I've been out scouting for turkeys, looking for turkeys, asking for permission for turkeys.
How many you got? What do you have set up? Because you're going out in the morning, so
Yeah.
tell
So,
me what you've got, what you've seen, and what your plan is.
yeah. So my plan was just to go and scout all the areas I have permission. So one of the farms I have permission is the same farm I have for duck hunting, but this guy just lets everybody go, and it's like I think 5 people have permission to hunt turkeys on his farm. So I'm just like, I'm gonna avoid that. I mean, I appreciate that he lets people have permission, but like, I just rather it's almost like hunting public land. So I mean, that's fine but I think I have a better chance going somewhere else. So skipping that one. Actually, he has actual multiple farms, so tons of turkey on it, but tons of people too. So skipping that one. Got another one I have permission on, and all I was seeing was a Jake. So gonna avoid that one as well. So I got 2 farms left that I got permission on. And driving between the two. So yesterday I saw two toms full strut out in the cornfield on my way to work, and then on my way back I saw one. Then today I saw nothing, and at the other farm I saw nothing yesterday, but I saw one tom out in the field on my way home. So it's like, do I go to the field that has more, but that was 2 days ago, or go to the field that has one tonight? So I'm not a very experienced turkey hunter. So,
Now, were the time frames the same, or were they different from when you looked at the field? When you saw the 2, and then the next day you saw none.
No, it was,
time of day is the same or different?
It was on my drive to and from work. So
Weather change at all? What did the weather change over the 2 days?
yeah, I mean, it was cloudy today. It was sunny yesterday. So a little change.
It's gonna be tomorrow.
It's supposed to be cloudy. Yeah.
Wind direction change between those sunny and cloudy days, or
I didn't check that.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that made a big difference, but I guess maybe with their flight or whatever.
I'm not totally sure on that either. I mean, some turkeys get so habitual that you just know where they're going to be, and then others are like, I hunted 2 days in a row last year, and I picked one field, and they were in one off the other side of the creek. The second morning, I picked the one where they were at, and they were back where I was the first day.
Yeah, that's that. That's what I feel like. Yeah.
It's crazy. And then I went out the next week. Dan and I went out the next week, hunted this little field. This was last year, and saw nothing. 2 days later, a friend of the farmer went out, exact same spot, killed a 25-pounder in the morning.
Oh wow,
it's like,
that'll drive you crazy. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
What's up, Chance? What's up, Jordan? Yeah, so I decided me and my dad are going first thing in the morning, going before work. So we don't have like a lot of time to hunt, because I got to be to work by like 9:00. It's 15 minutes away from work. So we're talking like 8:30, pack up and, shoot out of there as fast as I can to get to work. So, I mean, but sunrise is at 6:45, right? Yeah, I think so. I can't remember if that's half hour before or sunrise. Now I'm confused. I'll have to double check. But anyways, we're going to that farm that had the more toms than the other one. Who knows if it's going to be the right choice, but
Yeah. Well, Dom has an interesting question. He says, "Is turkey hunting really filling the duck blues void?" And I think that Jordan and I would have 2 opposite answers of this. Mine is absolutely not. I am so unenthused for turkey hunting. At this point, I would rather go to the river and watch ducks puddle around in the water.
I am so pumped for turkey that I've never been this pumped for turkey before. And I don't know if it's just like going out and scouting and seeing them in the field, but like, and 2, like I really want to shoot one with my bow. Like I got a pretty cool video out I put today. Well, I actually got it right here. So I made a fan mount that goes on my bow. So
nice.
It attaches, deattaches, and my goal is to stock up on a big tom. I don't care if it takes me all 2.5 weeks. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm going to take like the first half and try this crazy idea that's probably not going to work. But if it does, it's going to be epic.
Well, I've seen a lot of videos where they work where those toms just like come. I would be a little intimidating if a huge tom was charging right at me. I'd be a little intimidated.
Well, it works way better with the shotguns, right? Because you just lift your shotgun over and bust them in the face. But yeah, but with the bow, you got to like hide that motion of you drawing back. So hopefully that fan can kind of like cover it, and
how are you gonna film that?
I guess I'll have to see the tom, set up my camera, and then scoot out there. But I do have a shot cam, so I have a shot cam mount, or no, a tacticam mount on my bow, so I should be able to get the kill shot from there. Maybe I'll put a GoPro facing me, so I'll have a view of me, a view of the turkey, and then a view of the whole thing with my camera in the back.
That's a lot of logistics. A lot of things have to come together perfectly.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I got some turkeys, got some spots, so I can blow it a few times. But after that, I'll probably just like either switch to hunting it with the bow in a blind or a shotgun, one of the two.
So when you get a tag there in Indiana, is it like either you can shoot with a bow or with a shotgun, or are they separate?
No, yeah, it's either, and you only get one tom in Indiana. You don't get three like you do in like other states. Or
well, we may definitely have to do some more turkey talk in the coming weeks, because I've got some other stories that I had thought of, not as great as the ones I've told, but there's several times where on public land I snuck right up on guys, and I don't know why I'm always like go to the where it's like I could kill that guy and he wouldn't even see me coming. Like, that's not a bad thought when you're hunting, is it? To be just like I was that stealthy, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want to kill him, but that thought goes through my mind.
You're the ultimate predator, right?
Yeah. Take that guy down. He wouldn't even know it. I can get away with it too.
Yeah. Just take your duck lantern. And
that's good stuff.
All right. Well, I guess let's just jump right into the main meat of the podcast. So today's episode, it's going to be all about concealment. So let's go ahead and start with the recording of the podcast. All right. What's going on, guys? I'm Jordan from Duck Gun Chronicles, and we got Elliot, my co-host from Freelance Duck Hunting. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about this topic and ready to go.
Yep. So today's topic, we're talking about our tips and tactics for concealment. Very important in the duck marsh or wherever you're hunting ducks.
Most of us think. Some people don't believe so, but
That's true. There's definitely some places, where you see just people sitting out in the open, and that doesn't fly where I hunt, at least.
It flies for people taking 60, 70-yard shots and winging birds all over the marsh. They seem to like doing that. I've seen multiple guys. What they'll do is they'll put their spinner at about 45 yards. And then, and then they'll sit so far back because they've got no concealment. They'll sit on a bucket in knee-deep water, and they'll sit that far back off, and their beginning shot will be at about 40, 45 yards.
Wow.
Because they don't have enough concealment to get close to anything. So that's their plan of attack from the get-go. And I would highly discourage that type of
I don't think I've ever killed anything outside of 45 yards.
Yeah, I know I picked a prairie chicken up one time and we stepped it off at about 70.
Wow.
But those things fly 70 miles an hour, so I don't know how far it carried.
Yeah.
But I know that's the farthest bird I ever remember thinking about the distance on.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I guess I'll just go over my strategies for concealment. So where I hunt, basically, we hunt a lot of like marshes and ponds and that kind of area. So for example, my favorite place to hunt, Honey Hole, it has lots of natural vegetation, lots of tall grass. So you don't necessarily have to have a blind, necessarily an A-frame blind or a layout blind. A lot of times we'll just get in the tall grass and grab sticks around, and it takes a lot of time, but if you brush yourself well in, it's well worth it, because in places like that we're getting close action. We're getting birds inside of 20 yards just regularly. So just for me, the natural vegetations and concealment, as long as you're putting in the time, you can do it with that.
So how long? So you build it up?
Yeah. So the grass is like super tall. I don't even know what kind of, there's just different weeds and stuff that grow in there. They grow like over your head tall. And so we'll just grab clumps of them and, just breaking them off. And then we'll just kind of congregate them all into one area. So we'll grab sticks as well, kind of like as your main support, bigger branches and sticks, and put it all around, and then stick all that grass in there, and then it's just all around you.
So do you ever have birds circling over your head when you're doing that?
Yeah, I guess sometimes, but usually they end up landing. So if in that
but
case,
then you're hunting by yourself too, right?
No, not necessarily. I'll hunt with a few people. I think I've never hunted with more than 3 in that spot.
Hmm. Well, my experience with hunting with more than one person, especially more than two, like three, is if you don't have trees over your head and you don't have any kind of top cover, if the birds are going, if they're in the pattern of circling around, because mallards when they're wary, they may circle 3, 4, 5 times before they come in, where we're at. And if you don't have something over the top of you, then chances are you're not going to get the birds in because they're going to come over top and they're going to look straight down. And I mean, we always have normally at least 2 dogs. So if you have 2 guys, 2 dogs, three guys, 2 dogs, your gear around you, even if you're all in camo, even if you're keeping your head down, it's for us really, really difficult
Hmm.
to get birds within close range if we're not covered on top.
So I think it's if we get it tall enough, that we don't have that issue with, like I've had similar issues where you're not like your blind kind of over time starts to slump over or something because it's all natural vegetation. But if I get it tall enough where it's like when I'm crouched down, it's over my head.
Yeah.
Then we don't have that issue because if they're just looking straight down and you have all the brush around you, it gives me enough cover, I think, for my situation.
It depends on, like, for us in those situations, it doesn't take much. And it depends on the kind of vegetation. But typically the kind of vegetation we're in, even the tall stuff, if you get walking around at all and the dogs get moving, that stuff gets beat down really, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So you can start off with stuff. Now, if you're talking making something that's going to be, with sticks and then grassing on top of it, but as far as just natural vegetation, waist to chest high, which you're talking about a little bit taller,
Yeah.
um, we're going to typically try to still get something over the top of us, um, because our experience is that, and maybe we're just bad at looking up. Maybe that we suck at that, rubbernecking, but is what we call it. But if we're not covered over top, in fact, when we make a blind, our first focus is the top of us, and our second focus is in front of us. So we always want to get on top and then worry about in front later.
So you're using that like camo, I don't know if it's called like a netting or whatever, but is that what you kind of use for your cover on the top? And you just prop it up with sticks or what?
Yeah. We have 2 camo nets. And the important thing about a camo net is you want a big one. And then you don't just want the netting, you want to have a thin little cord or rope netting. Have you ever seen that type where you've got the material and it's reinforced by, gosh, I don't know what it would be, little cord or little string, basically. And that makes it really, really tough. If you get the stuff without the backing on it, like most guys I see, they'll carry around like a tarp about the size of a single bed. And the stuff we get is a lot bigger than that. And we carry 2 of them in a little bag. And we typically always have that stuff with us, whether we use it or, well, depending on the situation, but we almost always have that stuff with us. So when we start building a blind, we can get the back and the top, and then worry about the front later. Actually, the front is the last thing that we're concerned with, compared to back and the top.
So while we're on this kind of discussion, kind of like a little bit of a side rabbit trail, but what's your thoughts on sunny days versus cloudy days in concealment? Because I feel like this is more and more becoming like a kind of hot topic where a lot of people will say like cloudy days are better. But then I've seen more and more where people are saying the sunny days with the casting of the shadow. And I think personally from my experience that I haven't really had trouble on sunny days, whereas some people say, no, it's got to be cloudy. But other people say, no, it's got to be sunny.
Yeah. Well, back when I started hunting, it was generally thought, and that would have been like 90, 91. The general rule was a ducky day. When you said a ducky day, you were talking about low clouds and drizzly and just crappy weather.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere in the last 15 years, it's changed to everyone wants a sunny day.
Now, I wonder if that's dependent on your place you're hunting too, because I feel like those sunny days are way better in a field a lot of times, whereas like the misty, crappy days are good in water. But I mean, I don't have a huge sample size, but I mean,
well, you gave me a few years because the website I'm having developed, Freelance Hunt Stats, and once I get all my data into that, and then I'll be able to sort it by cloudy versus sunny days, and I will be able to tell you what my average bird per hunt is on cloudy days versus sunny days, and I cannot wait for that to take place
Would you be
because
able to
I'm really
tell?
excited.
Would you be able to tell site wide, like anonymous from the users? But
Well, I mentioned that to the developer. I just changed developers on this website, but the first one is still involved a little bit. But that is the goal. Is to I would like to have a data pool where I could sort it all and then get all of the data. But we haven't got to the point. I'm sure we could do it.
yeah,
But we
yeah,
can't do it now. But yeah, that would be so fascinating. And then you could write blogs and articles about it and have some actual data. Because I've
yeah.
I've talked about this quite a bit. Is that this is true in waterfowl hunting and in life in general? Is you're out and you have one experience and you say, "Wow, the ducks reacted this way based on, let's say it's sunny. Oh, it's sunny, and man, they came in and we busted them." And then it happens a couple more times that year, and then because of two or three events, you just decide, well, that's how it is
Mhm.
because and once you have your mind locked in to the fact that something is true, not seeing it as true is becomes much less likely.
Yeah, it's like
And
when you have your favorite place to hunt. Like for me,
yeah,
I'm like the honey hole, and I know it like that it produces, but I mean you can't hunt it every time, obviously, but you have this like inkling in your mind, and you can have the same thing for sunny days versus cloudy days. Or like sunny days, the way to go, but
yeah.
it's not always true, or it might not be true.
Once people predetermine things as true, they're going to believe it, no matter what. I mean, it's like the spinner no spinner thing. Now, people will swear that it makes a difference, but I can tell you this from my personal opinion, and I'm not speaking for anyone else. My personal opinion is I have pulled the spinner in the late season probably 25, 30 times when the ducks were wary, and not one single time, not once has it improved what the ducks do. I mean, not
Hmm.
once.
Hmm.
So, and I use that point to be saying that that may be an example of people jumping to conclusions and then forever just saying it's true.
Well,
Um,
here's my problem on that. I've never pulled the spinner, so
well, I'm determined to continue to try it because more and more and more people are saying, well, it doesn't work like it used to. It doesn't work like it used to. Well, I'm seeing ducks hover over my spinner almost every single hunt. So, and people say, well, down here in Texas, they've been being shot at well, in Kansas, they've been being shot at every single, I mean, when I'm hunting birds in December and January in Kansas, they've been hunted every bit as hard as people who are shooting birds in Texas. I mean, the same season length and dates is the same. It's
yeah.
not like they don't ever have a time they're not hunted. So
Hmm.
I'm just not seeing it. So back to the sunny versus cloudy. Part of me has always said, well, that may be a case of people jumping to conclusions. And because I had never actually heard anyone give a reason as to why that would be the case. Now recently I've heard people, what they're starting to say is that on a cloudy day, there's no shadows, there's no light reflections, and therefore it's like looking into an aquarium. And on a bright day, you've got lots of reflection off the water, you've got shadows, and it makes it harder for a person to pick out. In fact, I saw this on. So I'm now a believer of sunny versus cloudy. Sunny is easier to conceal than cloudy. And what locked it in for me was that on Cabela's Northern Flight, a video by John Lewis, he had his drone up and he showed two different days. He showed a sunny day from a drone and a cloudy day from a drone. And he went through it and was talking about the shadows. I mean, you could see right from that video that on the cloudy day, it was easier to see them. And it's just a combination of, and that was in the field. So that's not even like light refraction or reflection off the water at all. That's just shadows that on a
Yeah.
cloudy day, you could see their blinds a lot better. So originally I thought maybe people were jumping to the conclusion too early and I wasn't a believer in it. But after hearing people give that reason and seeing John Lewis' video about it, then I was like, okay, well that now actually you give me a reason to believe it. I'm not going to believe something just because a bunch of guys are saying it. You're going to
Yeah.
have to like give me specific reasons as to why, and then I may have to experience it as well. But I am a believer in that now.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same mindset as you with it. That it does. That there's no reason not to hunt on a sunny day because, I mean, I have friends that will say that they don't want to hunt because it's going to be sunny, and
That's silly.
yeah, and I mean, I think I'm along the same line. I think that it's very possible that sunny days are better for concealment opposed to the cloudy days. And there could be, other underlying factors where cloudy days in general, are cooler, which will improve duck movement. So some of those things, could play into that. So maybe you get better movement, but they're not decoying as well. So, that could be part of the reason why people have a misconception about sunny days. Like, it's sunny, but it was also, 10 degrees warmer than it was yesterday.
Yeah, but devil's advocate, when you get down below 20, 15 degrees, a cloudy day is going to be warmer than a sunny day.
That's true. Yep. Or high pressure days.
And I'd say the worst day is no wind. You get a day where there's no wind, and I think that's the worst. And Aiden had a great idea this year, and I'd never thought of it, because with no wind, we always try to use jerk rigs. And we were hunting with Aiden, and we were having problems pulling him. He's like, you know what? He's like, where we have our jerk rig, there's some movement, but all the rest of the decoys are still. Why don't we pull all the rest of the decoys and just leave out like a dozen where they're all affected by the jerk rig? And we did that, and that one sample size seemed to make an absolute difference. Everything within, just decoys around the jerk rig, so that everything was within that ripple pool, and the ducks reacted much better after we made that change.
That's good information.
Yeah, at one time, but I mean, at least was something to keep in mind, because it definitely seemed to work that one day.
I mean, that's how you spark an idea. You just get one time and go from there and build on it. And
yeah. And I had never heard anyone, maybe people already know that. I had never heard anyone say that or mention that, but it certainly worked. That was this season.
Gotcha. So another big, or another thing for concealment that I've become a big fan of recently is the A-frame blind. Have you hunted out of A-frame blinds at all?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, they're just it's just a really good way to do it, I think. I haven't necessarily done it like in a full out field. I know a lot of people are switching to A-frame blinds opposed to layout blinds, even out in cornfields for geese and ducks or whatever you're hunting out in the field. But this past year we used them a few times in ditches in high growing grass in a field. And I mean, it's just so easy for concealment because there's no gaps. It's so easy to build it up above your head level. And the way that the one that I was using, it's angled. So when you build that above the top, it kind of folds in on you. So you only have just like a hole where your head's going to pop out when the ducks come. So I've been a real big fan of using A-frames here recently for concealment.
Yeah, we honestly, our style of hunting, I don't think that we'll ever go to an A-frame. It just doesn't. It does not fit for how we do things.
So you don't think like even if you had it like out in the marsh that it would work for you?
Well, I mean, we're not going to go away from our layout boats. There's no way, because you're not going to get out in a marsh with a dog and then you have to bring in a platform. So now you're bringing in an A-frame with a dog platform because it's too cold for your dogs to be in the water. And there's no way that's going to be simpler for us than our layout boats.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And there's no way you can convince me that something that tall is going to be better than a layout boat that does not protrude above the height of the grass. There's just no way that's better. I can't believe that it would be, because I mean, layout boats, you can blend in at the level of the vegetation. With the A-frame, I would think I think it's got its place, but for us, with the A-frame, it's going to stick out 3-4 feet taller up than our layout blinds. Our layout boats would do.
Well, to contradict that a little bit,
how are you going to transport them in there?
That'd be pretty hard. It would have to be like somewhere that you knew you could leave it. But with public land, with all the other hunters you have out there, that might leave an issue for you. But to kind of contradict your point a little bit, I don't necessarily have my own experience from this, but at the Indiana Waterfowl Show that I was at this year, there's a guy that was giving a talk about A-frame blinds. I can't remember his name now, but he's a somewhat prominent figure in the waterfowl community. But he was talking about the difference between like layout blinds in cornfields and A-frame blinds in cornfields, and how geese are getting so used to just coming up on the layout blinds that they flare from them just because they're so used to them. But the A-frame blinds are actually working better, even though it's a higher profile. So yeah, I don't necessarily have experience from that. Just kind of food for thought on that.
So how would someone come to the conclusion that geese are flaring off of layout blinds because of their experience with layout blinds?
How would they
decide that?
I think just experience from, one day to the next, or vice versa, doing the A-frame blind and then having success with that.
I've heard people say that about layout blinds, and my first thought was, so you're telling me you understand what that goose is thinking?
Yeah,
And
so you're saying they could be flaring from like the set or whatever.
yeah, I mean, there's multiple reasons. Some days birds just don't want to finish, and you can't figure out why. The majority of the time, I would say almost every time birds are flaring, it's because you have not put enough natural concealment on top of you. And I just, from looking at, back to Cabela Northern Flights, from looking at the videos and from how they do their layout blinds and the kind of natural concealment that they put on top of them, there is no way a goose is identifying that as a blind. There is no way, because
Hmm.
it looks exactly like the surroundings. I mean, you can grass like, okay, now we hunted in a prairie marsh this year, in, what was it, early November, and the water was about calf deep and the vegetation was about knee deep. So I mean, it wasn't not very much vegetation, and there was four of us, and we put on so much natural vegetation on our layout blinds. I mean, we piled it and piled it and piled it, that there was absolutely no way that any bird would be able to tell that it was anything other than natural. I just cannot, I just can't buy that if you cover something completely and totally proper and no one's face is showing and no dogs are showing, that a goose is going to see that multiple times and then have the cognitive ability to remember that, and in flight think back to that memory before and then flare it. I'm a real skeptic on that.
So you're saying like if they notice that there's an additional mound in the field, that they're not going to recognize that that's different from the prior day.
Well, that now that there's a that's a good case. If they're coming there every day and they're coming to the same spot and they notice that there's a difference, that's a good point and a good thought, because they've been coming to it, let's say 3 or 4 days, and then they come the next day, and it's not that they're remembering something from the past, but yet there's a sense in them that something's different and it makes them more wary. I could see that. I could
Yeah,
see that.
but then the other side of that, to the A-frame would also look different. But I don't know if what they're saying is that it looks different, but they've seen the difference of like what a layout blind or a group of layout blinds look like enough to realize that that's a sign of danger, compared to the A-frame where it just looks like more standing corn or something
Yeah.
along those
And
lines.
also that's a maker of an A-frame line saying that too, which, I mean, I don't blame him, but at the same time he's trying to sell a product.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't think he has sold one, but I think in his speech he was saying that he had plans to sell one.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm not saying that's necessarily not true. I just think I tend to be really skeptical of people drawing conclusions on things and then just saying, "Well, those geese flared because, you know." But
yeah,
I didn't finish I guess I didn't even finish what I was talking about with that hunt that we had in the marsh. So pintails are around here. Pintails are really, really difficult to get to come right in. And we had four guys, two dogs, and we had those layout blinds brushed so thoroughly and so completely that those pintails were just coasting right into a marsh that had virtually no cover. And I mean, hiding four guys in a prairie marsh is a chore. I mean, it's almost too hard even to try, because there's just so much open space. A lot of times the cover is especially if they've planted millet or something, the cover's really, really shallow. So I just can't imagine doing it any better than that, I guess.
gotcha.
But that's
So
field
what?
versus marsh too. And I don't have much field hunting experience. I can tell you
Yeah, I
that.
have more marsh hunting experience as well than
I
field.
have had two separate friends tell me that they have gone to white suits with some snow geese mixed in because they feel like their layout blinds are sticking out and geese are getting wary to it. I have had two other people tell me that,
Hmm.
but I
So what?
just tend to be more skeptical.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't jump off or onto a bandwagon until you know for sure. So what? Why would you think? Just curious. You were saying the pintail are more wary than other ducks, but it seems kind of weird that why are they more wary than other ducks?
I don't know. They're just
You think
maybe.
that with them being that like wary that they wouldn't have such a population problem, but maybe that's a different.
Yeah, the
Um,
population. I did a video about why they're having a population problem, and there's multiple factors, and it's pretty interesting because I didn't know, so I went and did a little bit of research on it, and by that I mean I read like 2 articles. But you can sound really smart when you said I did research, when in actuality you're reading a couple of articles that you trust. But I think maybe they're isolationist a little bit. I know when we use pintail decoys, we always put them just kind of like you would with a goose decoy, not scattered in, but kind of on the tips and on the fringes a little bit. So maybe they're just a little isolationist from the other ducks.
hmm,
I'm not positive, but I know that now we don't shoot a ton of pintails. I shot, I think, 6 pintails this year, and that was my best year ever. So we typically will shoot 2 or 3 a year, just because we don't see that many of them. We saw a ton this year, but they just always seem hard to get right in close.
gotcha. Hmm. Yeah, we don't see them around here, so one of these days, I hope.
We can shoot 2 next year. They up the
Oh wow, the numbers
up
are already
the
out.
Yeah. Well, here they base the limits on the previous season.
Huh. See, I thought they all came out like at the same time with like the Delta waterfowl report or whatever. Is that already out?
No, you mean the projected duck numbers?
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
No, I'm sure they have right now. I haven't seen it, but I'll guarantee they have maps showing how the habitat is setting up for
Hmm.
breeding, nesting, and breeding. But they don't have any numbers until they actually get the hatch out.
Gotcha.
But yeah, here they and rumor has it is that all the guides in the state started putting a lot of pressure on them so that they could set dates and start getting some people lined up. So about 4 years ago, they started putting out the season dates and the limits in the spring instead of late summer.
Nice. Yeah, Indiana still. I swear it's like a month. Like we don't know our dates till like a month before, if that. It's not far enough in advance.
Do they change them around very much? Your dates?
I don't know, honestly.
They
Hey,
do.
George.
They haven't here for a while. But they're always kind of tinkering with them. And they added a southeast zone a few years back, and there's always people on the forums like crying and happy and whining and fight the same fights every single year about season dates.
Oh
It's
wow,
going on right now on refuge forums. The fights are going on happening as we speak.
nice. So before we get off the topic, I just kind of want to, for closure on the A-frame and layout stuff. I don't know that one works better than the other, but for me this year, I'm going to try to use, well, the group I go with, they have A-frame blinds and layouts. I don't personally have it, but if they ask for my opinion, I'll be like, hey, let's try the A-frame blind because I want to do it more. And it's just, compared to laying out, like it's just way more comfortable. So if it works similar, then I'm all for the A-frame.
I love laying out. I think it's now when I say laying out, I'm talking in a boat. And I
Yeah.
have used a ground blind some. I have. But I love laying out, especially if you have doors, because when we first started laying out, we were using hoods, and those are really, really hard to shoot with because you have a whole different motion. You've got one hand flipping that hood back, and then after you flip it back, then your hand is coming to your shotgun as you're raising up, and just the fact that you're doing a sit up before you shoot, that your timing is really different.
Hmm. So yeah,
In a
I don't
layout.
have a lot of experience in layout, but I just didn't like it. Like, I mean, the other guys I was hunting with were way more used to it. So they're like, I take them, and everybody sits up and take, and I'm like,
Yeah.
like get my gun up, and I think everybody shot, and I shot once, and then everyone's done, and I shoot twice more. I mean, I dropped 2 geese on my last 2 shots, but
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. If you're not used to it, it was just like, man, I'd way rather be standing up.
Well, there's nothing much more fun in a layout boat on the water with doors, and you feel all tucked in there and your dog behind you resting her head on your shoulder.
Yeah, that'd be kind
And
of cool.
I mean, it's comfortable, and I mean, it's fun. It is fun.
Yeah. Have you ever seen those? I guess you have layout boats, so this is kind of more up your alley. But those, what was it called? Oh, I saw one on like the Facebook waterfowl forum garage sale site or whatever it's called, and I can't remember what it's called now. But no, it was a beaver. It was a beaver tail sneak boat, and it
Mhm.
had like a 3.5 horsepower mud motor, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that thing would be awesome. And you know, it had the same thing. You know, they'll throw out and,
How big
and
was the boat?
I mean, it fit a person and a dog.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. A lot of people around here, especially if you're talking the central part of the state, if they want a layout boat, they want a little long tail on it. And if you get that, you better have a buddy that has one because you're not taking a friend. But those little bad boys can get shallow and they're cool to use. But we have never put long tails on ours because we use them a little bit differently, um, because we don't only hunt the prairie marshes. So
Hmm.
if you're hunting a prairie marsh, having one of those would be a good value.
Well, you just need to get two. You know, one without and one with.
Yeah, well, we've always carried an extra layout boat with us,
Hmm.
for guests, but those boats are a lot more expensive because they're a lot heavier. You're typically talking about a 12-foot boat at least, and you have to have a trailer for them, and it gets a
Yeah.
lot more expensive when you go, when you're talking having a transom and a motor on a layout boat versus, an 8 to 12 footer, which is the range that we're in with our layout boats.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it wasn't as far as, I don't think it was a 12 footer. It was probably close to 8 footer,
Oh my
um,
gosh.
with a little mud motor. But I'm not positive. He did have it. You'd have to have a trailer for it, I think.
Did he have the dog behind him or in front of him? Did you see?
Behind him, yeah.
Okay, then that's going to be at least 10 foot,
Okay.
probably 12. Because when we started with 8 footers. We had Cartson's pintails, or no, Cartson's puddlers, which is an 8 footer. And poor Izzy, I didn't know what I was doing. We would lay in these marshes and we would have real grass mats over us. And I had Izzy in between my legs, not behind me.
Hmm.
And I went like a year, 2 years trying to shoot over the top of her. And then it dawned on me, I was like, this is really, really stupid. Why in the world would I put my dog in front of me? And she was constantly getting in my way, or I mean, and I was shooting over her head, but still it was like the concussion had to be much louder. And that's
Yeah.
like, this is dumb. I've got to get this dog behind me. Um, and then we upgraded to, my dad got a Cartson's pintail, and then I got something off Craigslist that was 10 to 12 feet, and getting that dog back behind you, and then everything started falling into place at that point. But you can't have your dog in between your legs when you're trying to set up and shoot.
Yeah, yeah. I've had that a similar kind of, not necessarily the same, but Chief, when he was younger, he would kind of like creep forward, creep forward, creep forward. I'm like, stay, you know. And then like as the ducks are coming, he's like kind of just creeps forward. And you know, he was still less than a year old, and you know, the concussion from that, you know, it gave me a little bit of an issue because he became gun shy after. You know, one particular time where he got too far forward and the concussion hit him for sure.
Yeah, yeah. You certainly have to be careful. I was watching a video recently where this dog wasn't steadied at all, and it was running in front of these guys, and oh my gosh, this dog was in danger. And this guy was just getting shredded on the comments of this YouTube video. And we're like, oh my gosh, that's dangerous. Just letting a
Yeah.
dog run out free. Um, let's jump back to concealment
Yep. Yep.
a little bit, because there are some things I wanted to talk about as far as kind of the progression. I think that my dad and I went through with concealment, that I think a lot of people maybe anywhere in this stage, and I think people right now have a real advantage with YouTube, because when we started in the late 90s, I mean, if you were doing things wrong, it's not like you were watching videos and going, "Oh, that's how you do it." I mean, there wasn't that many. I mean, I don't even think Ducks Unlimited had a show at that point. There was no, I had never watched a waterfowl hunt video in 90 91. So if you're doing something wrong, you either figure it out yourself, or you see other people around you doing it. But now, I mean, you can go from knowing nothing to being an expert in all areas, just based on watching videos, which I'm sure before you could read magazines on it and stuff. But so we started out being bucket squatters, which is a term that a lot of people use. We just carry a bucket out. All our stuff was in the bucket. You put the bucket down and you sit on it. And if you can get behind cover, great. If you can't, then you just do the best that you can. And we quickly realized that if you want birds in close, that's not the way to go. And we were joking about that earlier, that I still see people bucket squatting. And there's nothing worse for public land than a bucket squatter, because they're if there's not trees, there's no way they're covered enough, and they just kill everything in the marsh. So then we ended up realizing that didn't work, and we went to trying to build temporary blinds, and that was a little bit better. But we've got so many different types of marshes in this state. We've got marshes with no trees at all, and then we've got to everything with flooded timber. So we've got some marshes that are really shallow that we can paddle through. We've got big lakes we go across where you can't paddle them, so you need a big boat. So at some point, we decided to get as versatile as humanly possible. So we've got the layout boats fully grassed and covered. We've got the big 18-footer to take us across the lake, and then we've got those tarps that we talked about. So I think that one of the main things with being concealed is knowing what you need for that area. So if we're hunting prairie marshes, we're always taking our layout boats because there's no trees. If we're hunting this side of the state, we can walk in, and like when we were doing really well this year, we could walk in and just sit with a tree at our back. If you have trees over the top of your head, I mean, you need very, very little out in front of you to be concealed. And most of those limits we were shooting this year were just trees over our heads. We'd put a few little piles of sticks in front of us, but nothing really to concern with. So I think a big part of it is knowing where you're at. Like some of the places you guys are hunting, you talked about the A-frames, those are perfect fits. So I think getting to know exactly where you're going to be hunting and thinking, what is the best way that I can completely hide in that environment, and then supply yourself with all of that equipment that you need for each of the scenarios.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I guess I don't necessarily have a lot to add to that.
Yeah, I thought that was just I was like, well, I'm going to see how long this silence will go. I don't know. I mean, I've got lots of other, there's all sorts of things you could talk about with concealment, like raffia grass versus grass mats, and how you go about brushing a layout boat, how you go about brushing a big boat. I mean, it's endless. How do you go about brushing a um, layout blind, whether it's in the field or, I mean, there's just so many things
Yeah.
to
My
concealment.
suggestion on that is when you think you're done, you're not, and keep doing it.
Yeah, that's totally true.
I've never been upset about, brushing in too much, just you keep doing it and keep doing it. And
until your gun's getting stuck on stuff, then you're then you're mad that that's when you brush it too much, is when you can't shoot out.
Yeah. Have you actually had that experience? Or
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like you go to swing and you haven't made a big enough hole out in front of you or cleared enough trees, and so your gun is catching in the limbs.
See, for me, it's usually I'm going up, so like I'll be crouched and I leave like the top open. But you say you guys do it different, where you don't have that opening to kind of go through, so you keep your gun close and you stand up through it and aim.
Yeah, or we in that situation, a lot of times we will do that in the water. We'll get in some of these marshes where we get out in the marsh, and there's a few little thickets, like really sparse willowy thickets, and we'll use our layout boat. If we don't have the layouts, if we hadn't been planning on actually laying out, we'll use one layout boat and cover it with those tarps, and then fill the tops in with willows all around us, and sit in front of the layout boats on little stools. We bring marsh stools wherever we go too.
I think I asked you this earlier, but I can't. Did you say, like, when you use the tarps and the kind of braided camo stuff, that what do you use to prop that up on? Just like vegetation and like tree limbs and such, or
tree limbs, paddles, tree limbs. Yeah.
So I wonder if there's like,
we do that a couple times a year.
Okay.
But we do it.
Like those kind of like frames that people have where, I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, it's almost like just a way to prop it up, where you have like a frame and it's got a point in the middle where it kind of swivels, so it has like two, and they're pinned together, and then they spring out. Right? Have you ever seen those for canoes?
No.
I've seen something similar for that. I wonder if
Where they pop up on a canoe, you mean, kind of?
it just goes over a canoe, so it makes like an X pattern, right?
I have seen that. Yeah, I've seen
So
that.
I don't know if something like bringing like something like that in the marsh, and then you can throw your kind of braided stuff for your top cover,
Hmm.
would make a good mobile blind or not.
I have seen. I don't know. I can't remember what YouTuber it was. I've seen someone doing that,
Hmm.
where they just have a little canoe and they have a little X thing that pops up over it.
I want to try that because I have a canoe, and sometimes the hardest part for me is concealing my canoe away from where I'm hunting, because it may like I have tons of tall vegetation where I hunt, and I can usually just shove it in there, but it makes kind of like this. Well, all the stuff kind of gets folded out away from it. You know, you
Hmm.
push your canoe in there and everything spreads, and then I go back and I smash it down around the edges of it, but it's still kind of sunk in that spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I kind of want to camo my canoe, but another idea is kind of having some type of X pattern like that and getting the braided top cover that you're saying. And then even if
Yeah.
you're not even using your canoe, where I make my blind, putting that over my natural vegetation blind and then having an opening in the front with the top
Yeah.
cover.
Uh-huh. I think the general rule that we follow is um, as low to the water and to the ground as you can possibly be, the better off you are.
Hmm.
So I think
Hmm.
something like we bought the Ascend H12s, which is a kayak from Bass Pro, and they're
Yeah.
only like $700. And then with that, for $200, you can get a redhead blind attachment. And then we have put we've got by raffia grass and make little bundles of raffia grass, zip tie those on all the loops, and then when we get out to the field, use natural vegetation to fill in and stuff the loops. And that's going to be three. I'm trying to think of those X planes you're talking about. I think that's going to be 3 feet lower down than those X. I think the lower you can get, the better off that you're
Can you
always
only
going
have
to be.
one person in that though? Or,
Yes.
okay.
Hmm. Only one person and a dog. At least in
So,
that size. They may have bigger ones, but yeah, it's typically one person.
so with that kayak, so one issue that we have when we're hunting in the canoe, like, so I have, or when we're using like boats, like sneak boats or that kind of stuff. So my buddy has one of my buddies has a sneak boat. I don't know which brand it is, and I have my canoe, and so we'll go out of this creek down the river and set up, and then when we go back, like he had struggled hard. Like I didn't even think he was going to make it back at points.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to paddle that sneak boat, and it's so wide and down in the
Mm-hmm.
water that he can't. He's struggling, and there's two people in it, and he can't paddle it back. And I'm in my canoe with two people and my dog, loaded down with gear, but it just
Yeah.
cuts through the water so much better. So I wonder, like, does your kayak have any issues? Or I know kayaks are usually
No.
pretty good for that.
No, they don't. The problem with the layout boats is they're traditionally just totally flat on the bottom. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's no, I don't know what the terminology for them is, but there's no ruddering at all. There's no grooves in them where the kayak is built for that. So like you get because Aiden's a much faster paddler than I am. And he was in my dad's old pintail on the Kansas River, and I was in the H12, and he couldn't even hardly keep up.
Mm.
And if we had the same thing, he would blow me away. He's in a lot better shape than I am. But those kayaks are built for that. But kayak layout boats are not. In fact, our general rule with our layout boats was not to get in water over our head, just because they're not designed for that. That's not what they're designed to do.
So you think they might have a chance of sinking, or?
Well, I almost sunk my 8 footer one time and almost drowned. Um,
Mm.
but that was more my error of overloading it. But I feel totally safe in that kayak. I feel safer in that kayak because it sits up a little bit higher off the water. If you get in I know the layout boats that I have, if you get in the water and you load those down and you're paddling and you look at how far the water is away from coming over the top, you're typically talking 6 inches, which is not much.
Hmm.
Sometimes even less than that, where the water will just lap up over the back, and you're talking 3 inches, where you just don't have that much room for error as far as a dog, getting off. If you get a wild dog or something and you get a little too much weight and you bend over a little too much one way, then now I never tipped any of my layout boats or anything, well, I mean the one small one, any of my bigger ones. But the kayak, I feel a lot because it just sits up higher. It's designed for more of that type of condition. So that's why I
Yeah.
think that H12 is I was against going with the kayaks until I actually saw the one my dad got and took a look at it. And man, to me, it is the perfect all terrain duck
Hmm.
hunting non-motorized duck hunting boat.
Gotcha. Yeah, I kind of agree that kayaks are the way to go. The only issue I had was when I was deciding what I was going to use for my boat when I started hunting. It was between a kayak and a canoe, but for me, I wanted to hunt with a lot of people that don't hunt, and they're not going to have a means of transportation out there. So that's why I went with the canoe. Even though I think I agree with you, like kayaks are better, especially since you can lay out in them.
So you need to keep your canoe and get yourself a kayak.
Yeah, that's Then there's the issue of money though, but
Yeah,
there's so many things to buy, especially when you do like the YouTube and stuff, because your funds for the hunting and YouTube split in between cameras and.
I'm just so in love with the H12. It has been such an upgrade for us from just a traditional layout boat, because I was hunting with a hood and my shooting percentage was terrible because I always shoot terrible when I have to flip a hood up over my head. And then I went to doors for only $900. I went to the kayak with doors on it, totally brushed in with natural stuff. Everything is better as far as it was such an upgrade from the way we were doing it.
So with your dog though, your dog and like gear, how many decoys can you take in a kayak, or do you have to like pull something behind you, or?
Let's see. Izzy would go in the very front. I could probably get 3-4 dozen.
Okay, so that's pretty good. So your kayak must be pretty spacious.
Yeah, it is. It's deep. It's deep hold. When you think of a kayak, and when I always thought of one, I thought of those ones where the guy's kind of sitting up high, but these are actually function more like a small canoe. They're just a little bit lower.
So it's the open top and all that kind of stuff too, right?
Mm-hmm. The only thing we had to do is that blind we bought didn't have any means of hiding a dog, so we had to invent a system to hide Izzy and Candy. So, which we had already been doing in our layout boats. My dad came up with this little system with Bimini hinges and what's that? Maybe Luke will tell me. He keeps helping me. These little, you can bend these little poles. Gosh, what are those called? Conduit.
Conduit. Wow, now I can't say it either.
Help me out, Luke. He's
conduit. There we go.
Yes. And you can bend those. And so my dad worked this system where he made Bimini hinges where those are like what they use on boats that have little tops that can slide up back. My vocabulary is terrible on all this information. But anyway, my dad made this little system for putting a hood for the dog. And then we covered it with raffia grass and all that. So we just transferred that system to the H12. And that was conduit. Yeah. So that was the one thing that we had to come up with to hide the dog. But once we did that, everything was perfect.
Yeah, I remember seeing those in your videos.
Look like I've never been more hidden.
Work pretty good.
I've never been. Well, before we were creating our own grass mats and rolling them up, and we were just completely covering them with raffia grass. So we'd get like garden fencing, plastic fence, and we would zip tie bundles of raffia to those and just basically make big raffia blankets and then roll them up into like a little bundle, take them out with us and then unroll them and just pull them on us like a blanket. And those did not work well at all. But once we got to the actual blind being on the kayak that had doors that you had raffia on and then filling it in with the natural stuff is just a million times. We decoyed ducks with that this year. We never would have decoyed under the old system.
I wonder if I could add like the stabilizer. You know how like people put like stabilizers on the side of a canoe or like a boat, and just make my canoe, like put one on either side to make it into this like huge sneak boat.
No, hold on. Say that again. I don't understand that.
Okay, so like so I could lay out. I'm trying to say so I could lay out in my canoe, right? But like currently you couldn't because it's too unstable. So you have like a. Like, I don't know, on like older canoe style, like almost sailboats, like the thing I'm thinking of.
Yes.
And it's got like a stabilizer that comes off the side, right? And it's just another thing that's floating in the water over there. I could put one on either side of it and put a bunch of like grass and camo all over it and all over the canoe. And then I'd have a giant sneak boat. That sounds like way too much work. I'm never going to find out if that works.
That's way too much work. I have actually those exact stabilizers you're talking about. I have downstairs in my basement. We had a huge cargo canoe that we used for years and years and years. My dad did. I mean, this thing was massive. And one time we made a really bad decision and went across the lake in the middle of the night with a dog and 3 guys and a million piles of gear. And the sides of those canoe were like 2 inches from water. I mean, we could have easily died on this deal. This was back in the 90s when we were doing stupid stuff. And after that trip, my dad immediately went out and purchased their styrofoam arms, like, except on ours, it went on both sides. So you could take them clear. You could stand up in a canoe once you use those things.
Wow. Yeah,
they
I
were
need
great,
something like that.
But the job you're talking about would be massive.
Yeah, I was kind of saying it more of a joke, but yeah. Yep. Hey,
But
thanks for the sub, Caden. Yeah.
You could use those big tarps and then throw natural grass on top of it. But
I have a video from like 2 years ago where Chief tipped us out of the canoe. It was before hunting season, though.
oh, did you have it on video?
Yep. I lost my cell phone, like multiple fishing pools. Like we're in the river, and
oh my gosh.
He was like 5 months old, and he sees some sandhill cranes, and he jumps up into my lap. And this is a bad plan because I was fly fishing in a canoe with a dog, and we're both all the way in the back of the canoe, so it's super unstable. And I'm sitting down fly fishing, and he jumps in my lap, and it just tips us right over.
I've got to go back and watch your old videos. There's a ton of your videos that I haven't watched. I got to get that done.
Yeah, I mean, most of the old ones are not really, let's just say.
Well, a lot of my season 1 videos I look at and I'm like, oh my gosh. That's how it goes.
All right, I guess let's jump to the Facebook group and see kind of some of the community pictures. So anyways, guys, if you guys haven't joined us at the Fellowship of the Duck Gun, that's where we continue the conversation afterwards, after these podcasts, all throughout the week, sharing our pictures of our success and failure and discussion. So head on over there. It's Fellowship of the Duck Gun. It is linked down in the description down below. It is a private group. We try to keep it clean and cool in there. We don't allow haters and trolls in there, so you don't have to worry about that. It's just us, and we're having a good time.
Jordan's the only troll in the group.
I'm the biggest troll, so. All right, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and second monitor. Let's go to the photos in here. So we have been seeing some people's turkey pictures, I think, from last week. Obviously not any not any ducks this time of year. So this is John's dad. That's Marsh Assassin, if you're wondering who that is. That's his dad. And we got a lab right there. And a Chessie. Those are Beth's. And then Chance and his grandpa. Grandpa shot 2 Jakes, and Chance got his Tom. Nice big Tom. And then we got a young gun Elliot from last week.
Yep, the young me. I think I decided I was 30 in that picture.
30. Yep. I've been kind of brainstorming, and I think, what was it, like episode 3, we talked about how you need that you need a nickname, and everybody in your group has one. And I think I'm gonna be the one that comes up with one. So,
so yeah, we'll see.
I got a couple in the chamber that I might be throwing out here and there. We'll just we'll test them out. See how they go.
Shep wasn't bad. Shep was kind of okay.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm not sure if you're supposed to necessarily or be a big fan of your nickname. I mean, it doesn't have to be hateful or mean or anything, but
yeah.
But yeah. So
that I emailed Chef WRD about a partnership.
Oh yeah.
So those of you that are listening, if you haven't watched my videos, it's freelance duck hunting. One of the running themes is that I love Chef WRD. And mid hunt, we always make a fire and have soup, and I typically bring in Chef WRD. So I'm like, what, that would be the coolest thing to get them to sponsor freelance duck hunting. And I sent away a not very well thought out impromptu email. And I got back just like it's like when you write the president, and you get some mass copied thing with a stamp on it. That was the kind of basic response that I got. It was just some canned answer of just please leave us alone.
You're like, no, but I'm gonna promote your product on duck hunting videos.
Yeah, come on, man. I bet you that there has been more Chef WRD purchased. Now it might only be 5 or 6 cans,
Yeah, I
But
mean, we should probably buy our
I
stock in it.
I know. Keep it up, man. I love
Get
that
some
stuff.
spaghettios.
I'm jonesing. I haven't had some for a while. I may have to take some out.
What's your can of choice? Is it just the regular ravioli that they're famous for?
The mini raviolis. The mini
Okay.
raviolis are the best because the big ones, you don't either. You're gonna put the whole thing in your mouth, or if you try to bite it in half, it kind of slides apart. So if you get the mini raviolis, they're perfect size to pop into your mouth, but so you get the full effect of the ravioli on each bite.
And just when I thought there wasn't a science to eating ravioli, I've been proven wrong.
Well, did you see the video when I was dipping duck in ravioli?
Yep. So there you go. There's your pitch for them right there. They need a duck line, and you can provide it.
The duck line is you can use ravioli or you can use Chef Boyardee as a duck glaze.
I want to see your video during the season where you talk about your duck preparation and like partway through and you're like, and I marinate it for 12 hours in ravioli sauce. And
I got to do it. Okay.
You just pull it out of the fridge.
Challenge accepted.
Ziploc bag full of ravioli sauce and duck.
Hey, it's going to happen now.
All right.
And then I'll send that video to Chef Boyardee.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
The problem with Chef Boyardee is like they have like a mothering company that oversees like multiple brands.
Yeah, it's like Pepsi or something like that. They're all the same company. Or Nabisco.
I need to talk to someone at Chef Boyardee. I need to demand it. Talk to someone in charge.
All right. Well, I guess let's open up to questions. We're at the hour mark, but if you guys got questions, throw them in the chat right now. Let's get to them. And Graybeard will be the first one to answer them.
Is that me? I tried to do that Komen dye about 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. My wife, it was her idea. And I'm like, since I started the channel, I'm like, there's no way I can do that now.
You could just say, you could blame it on the Chef Boyardee. You just like, you eat enough of this and it brings back color to your beard.
It could be a slow progression video where my beard is slowly getting brown from eating Chef Boyardee.
You just like what we do is you like drizzle a little bit into your beard and you like wipe it away and you notice that the color came back.
No, we probably like every last podcast viewer is now deleted this download.
They're like, I thought this was about concealment.
Concealing my gray, yeah.
There you go. Yep. So one of the things we didn't talk about with concealment is your thoughts on face paint.
Oh yeah.
That's one of
face paint's great. I prefer to not use it because it's greasy and hard to get off. So what I like is a mask that has a mouth opening. That's my favorite. But I do carry face paint with me. Around Halloween, if you go and you can pick up tons of little tubes of black face paint for $1. So I've got 3 or 4 of those, and I always have it in my bag with me. And will use it if I don't have a face mask because I'm always losing my face masks. So anytime that I have black on my face, it's because I've lost my face mask.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm a fan of face paint. Like I think it works, and I think it looks cool. So yeah, I'm a fan of both.
Yeah, you play with yours. You get artistic with your.
I do like the same pattern every time.
Well, still,
it helps me intimidate the ducks. I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what is absolutely true, is that your face reflects sunlight. And especially, and my dad said this in the comments, which is true. On a clear day, if you have the sun in your face, you're not going to be more hidden on a clear day with the sun directly in your face because your face works like a beacon with the sunlight. So if you're going to have, especially on, I think every single day you should have something over your face, whether it's a face mask or face paint. Your face needs to be covered or you're not as concealed.
So the way I think about it, and I know this is a lot of speculation, but you know how like if you ever like across a room and like just out of your peripheral, you like see somebody's like face or something, and it just like for whatever reason that draws attention, and I'm not sure, I'm not positive, but I feel like that ducks might be able to recognize it similarly, and having the face paint breaks up the profile as well. It just it just doesn't look like a face as much when you have that.
Well, if you have nothing on your face and you look left and look right, it's a reflection that ducks are going to see. So, and even if you don't move it, they're going to see it. But especially if you move it, then that's just movement that they're going to see, and they're going to identify that. Absolutely certain. You have to have something over your face. If you're in some big built blind where you're flipping down doors at the last second, or even in our layout boats, you don't really have to have them because you have covering over your face, but something has to be covered over your face or you're gonna flare birds.
Yep.
It's just whether I want to wash all that crap off my face afterward or not.
Yeah, that's the issue. I'm thinking about starting to bring baby wipes with me because a lot of times I hunt before work, and that's when I don't use face paint because one time I did use it, and you almost look like you had like mascara and you cried, and you're walking around the office like that. I'm like, let's not do that.
What do the people at work say about your duck hunting? Are they pretty tolerant, or are they kind of more the?
I try to keep it on the down
crowd.
low, but I mean, there's definitely some liberal crowd there, but I only kind of interact with my department, and so I keep it on the down low as much as possible. But like, I mean, sometimes I come to work, my canoe's strapped on top of my Jeep, so it's not like a secret,
Yeah.
I've walked into work, and it's an office with cubicles, and I try to like sneak in the back way and get to the bathroom. I did that like one time, and I walked in full camo with face paint on, and went to the bathroom and washed my face off and changed my clothes. But I'm like, this is just not a good idea, and it probably doesn't look professional, so I don't do that anymore. But
how many birds did you kill that day?
I had a full limit in my truck or my Jeep.
Your truck with you. Oh my gosh. Nice.
And I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes I bring Chief in there too. So I know some people might not be a fan of that, but I put his doghouse in there, and he'll sit in there, and he's as snug as a bug in a rug. So.
Oh, that's cool. I don't get to hunt before work at all. I just can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, but you probably are on a stricter starting time.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to be there by, well, depending on what time of year it is. This time of year, towards the end, 7:30, but before that, like 7:30.
I mean, sometimes I'm only hunting 45 minutes to an hour. So I mean, you
oh
gotta
my
be.
Gosh.
I mean, you get your first flight. Yeah, you get your first flight. You get your birds from that. It's 2 or 3, and then you just leave.
Everything's fresh and new to you, which is great.
Yeah, like I'll go with my buddy. I shoot one bird. He's like, that wasn't worth it. I'm like, it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, one bird sometimes is totally worth it. There's a huge difference between shooting one bird and no birds. I've had days you sit 3 hours and have nothing. You shoot one bird, and it's like makes your whole day, especially if they're like coasting down the decoys,
Yeah, for sure. I think your wife wants you to actually not use the black coloring. She wants red. So.
Yeah. Fumblement's beard was red when he was my age. A not so well known fact.
So we got Captain Graybeard and Captain Graybeard and Captain Redbeard.
Yeah,
it's family tradition.
I wonder if my wife wants me to use that dye in on my beard. It's not happening though. I don't know. I'll have to ask her after this is over. She's quite a bit younger than me, so she probably does.
All right. Well, I think that kind of covers the concealment topic. What do you got? Anything else to add on that, or?
I would just say, like you said before, if you think that you have enough concealment, get more. And the one thing I was gonna say that I forgot is that sometimes people, and myself included, it's like you only start really concealing when the ducks won't come in, and you miss out on 3 or 4 or 5 passes before you're fully properly concealed. And taking the extra 15 minutes to get yourself completely locked in sealed is going to be worth it, even if there's some birds flying.
Gotcha. Now, would you say the same's for the face paint as well? If you think you have enough, then you need more.
Yeah, I would like to see a little more on yours. I want to see you mix up what you do with yours a little bit and see if you can get a little
different
more
colors or
yeah, a little more stylistic.
I wouldn't count on it. I'll probably stick with the tried and true. I don't know what you call it, the upside down antlers or.
Yeah, guys like to get pretty crazy with it, but
yeah.
I just smear it on.
Yep. All right. Well, I guess that's a wrap for us, guys. So thanks for joining us as always. Next week, what do we got? 60-day TV next week?
Yep.
60-day TV on Elliot's channel. So, we'll see you guys there.
Take care.
All right. Bye.